Probably when I'm speaking the most. Like it's like when I'm studying it or when I'm receiving the information, it's right there in front of me. But when I'm speaking, I kind of like pull it out of my brain and try and like communicate what I'm saying or like what I want to say.
Teacher asked me question. How do you think this question about it, Mika? I'm so anxious.
Like anxious about speaking?
Mm.
I think for me in class, I'm most anxious when I have to write because Chinese has a very complicated writing system, and so even the littlest difference in a stroke could change the word completely. So that's why whenever I'm writing, I have to concentrate a lot, and it makes me really nervous that I'm gonna mess up or so that my meaning could be taken completely different way.
Most of the class I have right now is like a lecture class, or like it's not really like I have to do stuff in it. It's just I just have to listen. So compared to other classes I have right now, I think my language class is like the only one that's really making me anxious feelings.
Do you think there's a specific reason as to why you're anxious in your language class when you're not anxious in your other classes?
Because other classes, I don't really do anything. You just have to sit there and listen.
Yeah.
And the professor doesn't like pick you and ask you stuff. But like in language classes, as you know, like Jason would pick us and make us read, make us say stuff, and answer stuff in our own like the knowledge we have. And sometimes it's just like I'm not ready, and so it's like making me nervous.
All my classes, but that's for different reasons.
So the anxiety levels are, do you think they're different in your language class compared to your other classes?
Definitely. I'm less anxious in Japanese because I don't need to get up and speak in front of everyone.
I'm not really anxious in my language class, but I'm anxious in my other class, most likely because I'm good with the material in the class, but for other classes, sometimes I procrastinate on the work more so that's why I'm anxious in there, not anything that has to do with the actual material itself.
I think it depends on who the person is. If I'm really close to them, I don't really care. I just like spit out words and they'll fix me. But if it's like people like I don't really know well, but I have to speak in Chinese, then like I don't want to say anything.
Yeah.
I prefer to speak with non-native English people because they speak more slowly than the native do, and the native people use slang which I cannot understand, and I don't like the African American accent because it's really hard to me to listen.
I feel, I don't know, better speaking with friends because sometimes they don't know what I'm saying and I think I'm correct when I'm telling them how to say something in that language. But speaking with a native speaker is different. It's more difficult, kind of, because there's a lot of ways how to say something depending on your tone, respectfulness, and everything in Japanese. So they use a more, not slang, but shortened form that like in the classroom we're not really learning much about until just recently. So I'm using like very respectful tones towards them and it's kind of weird, I guess, and like they teach me how to say it in a different way and it makes me even more nervous talking with them than with my friends who I just use the tone that I call it respectful, like the version, the formal way how to speak with them.
Especially we have the what is that? The writing.
Composition.
Yeah, that part of the homework. It literally takes me like 3 hours if I want to, like if I do that, and like sometimes I won't have that much time, so like I will be have to like do that in a different class, like to finish it out before, and like so it's stressful.
I got paper to do
In English?
in English. Yeah.
Do you get anxious writing them?
I'm so nervous to write my paper
Do you know why you're nervous?
because it takes more time than I will write in Japanese, and I'm not perfect at the grammar.
A little bit because there's 3 alphabets in Japanese, right? And I can't remember katakana for anything, and so it takes a little longer for me to do the homework if there's katakana because I'm like, I don't remember that one, and then I have to go and hunt it down, and then if it's in kanji, it kind of gets me because we're just learning that, and it's just, I think that's train. That's probably not actually train, but we're gonna go with that's train.
I took Spanish for 4 years, from middle school to 2 years in high school, and I like languages, so it wasn't really that difficult for me, and it was the same same letters as in English, so that was also a lot easier than Japanese. At the beginning of Japanese, when I'm just learning the alphabet and knowing that there's 3 alphabets, it made me anxious. But after getting used to reading it, and now it comes kind of a little bit naturally just seeing it and knowing like how it sounds, it's beginning to feel more like I'm learning Spanish, which I'm not as anxious in.
In high school, I took Italian for 4 years, and I experienced no anxiety at all when I took that. It was actually the only class in school that I had absolutely no anxiety in. I think one of the biggest differences between this and the anxiety I feel now is that Italian their alphabet is just like ours, except with an accent on 1 or 2 letters. So I was able to read and remember how to write the language. And so it made learning really easy. Whereas with Chinese, they do not have an alphabet, it's a system of characters. And so that's where the anxiety really comes in.
I learned French a little bit, but like French for 3 years, but I forgot a bit maybe, so.
Gina, so when you were learning French, were you as anxious as you are when you're learning Chinese now?
Yes, but I think like the first level, French is much easier. Like it's not like writing wise is so much, same as English.
Yeah.
So it's like it's that makes me nervous. Like it doesn't make me that nervous, but like right now, like it's getting like more and more I go into, it's just getting more and more difficult.
Yeah. So the similarities between the writing systems for French and English made it more was more familiar, so it was more comfortable than it is when you were learning the writing system for Chinese.
Yes.
Okay.
Speed at which they're talking.
I guess like it's definitely harder to understand when they're speaking faster. But if they are, I'll ask them to slow down, and they'll like a speaker will help me understand what they're saying.
Yeah, my teacher in communication class speaks quick, so first, and sometimes I couldn't understand, and the class is almost for only native speakers.
And too fast. Faster speeds make me more anxious than slower speeds, especially since like some sounds kind of mix in together when you speak fast in Japanese, like on the recordings when I'm doing my homework, that I can't tell that there's like a she in it, and without that, it's a different word, and like the whole sentence does not make sense. So I replay it over and over again to hear it. So I think a normal speed would be the best. Why do you think you get frustrated? You can't.
One day I got more than 20 pages reading, and due to tomorrow, it's just too much. And in some article, I couldn't understand if I concentrated on reading. Still, the sentence, the grammar, I don't know, the structure is difficult for me, and I read sometimes, but I couldn't understand it. Not only because they have a lot of words I couldn't understand.
Yeah, because sometimes I'll see the word and like I know what that is, but then I don't remember what it means. Like, so I had to like look it up, and it takes me like forever to go read one sentence.
I would say classmates, because I sometimes have that discussion with class, and I can understand what teacher said, but it's hard to listen to students, what students are speaking about.
Do students speak faster than your teacher? And do they also use like slang and stuff? Like,
I think so.
You think that's why it's like harder since like the teacher use very formal language?
Formal, and they speak clearly.
It's kind of equal because a lot of my classmates know it way better than I do, and the teacher definitely knows it way better than I do. And I'm like, God, if I mess up, they're gonna stake me in the loins.
I'm actually more anxious in class when my classmates speak to me as opposed to my teacher, which is weird because usually I'm very nervous when I have to talk to teachers. But I think it's because when I talk to my classmates, sometimes they won't know what they're saying, so they ask me for help and I tell them, but I also get nervous that I'm telling them the wrong thing. And then I also feel like some of my classmates know more than I do, and so I feel like we're on different levels even though we're all technically on the same level. And so I'm like, if I mess up, I'm gonna seem stupid in front of them. Whereas with a teacher, I'm more comfortable talking to them and answering their questions because I know they're there to help me learn, and so I don't have to worry about being judged by them.
Grammar is a few rules you can figure out pretty quickly. You can infer a few if you're used to it after a while. And then vocab, like there's so much vocabulary. Like it's not just like the words you learn in the book too. Like there's slang, there's gangster talk, and then there's the north and south dialects, I think. And like you've got to keep all of that in mind, and there's just so much to remember along with the grammar. And so the grammar's a smaller part of it, and the words are just like, and you've got to remember all this, because if you mess up, somebody's not going to know what you're saying.
Grammar, it's kind of like the same thing. Like you kind of just like plug it in and it works out. Like it's a lot more difficult than vocabulary because there's different requirements, there's different needs for the grammar. I don't think I get really anxious about it. It's because I want to. Like I really like Japanese and the culture and everything.
Do you think that affects your level of anxiety?
I'd say so. Like because I like it, I feel like I want to be there and I like want to actively learn it. So I'm not really as anxious around it.
I'm taking this language class because I want to. I'm minoring in it, and I plan to actually work abroad in Taiwan and China after I graduate. And I think this makes me more anxious because I know that I'm going to need this in my life, and I want to be able to do well at it. So when I don't do well or I don't understand, it makes me really frustrated, and I just get more nervous that I'm not going to be able to understand this, and I'm never going to get proficient enough in it to be able to rely on it in another country.
Yes.
Do you know why?
Because I know I'm not good at writing. I don't know how to build the sentence like what native people do. And it takes time.
A little bit, yeah, because like with Japanese, there's three different alphabets, so you've got to think about which one you're gonna use. Like, it's okay if you forget the kanji because you have hiragana to write in, but you can't forget the hiragana or the katakana because you absolutely need to know those two. I mean, mainly the hiragana because there's not that many words we've learned so far in the katakana besides like our own names and bread and there's a few others I can't actually remember off the top of my head right now.
Writing is not really an issue because I can see it right there, and it's easier to process in my head than speaking. So I actually like writing a lot in my in Japanese. I don't know, it helps me gain the knowledge, and I don't know, like it feels nice that like I can write a lot, like it's an actual paragraph or a whole entire essay. Probably if I try, I can probably write pretty well.
I feel bad, but I think I can get my point across using other words that I do know.
Do you ever feel like you're forgetting words because of your anxiety?
I'm sure I do, yeah. I'm sure that happens.
Like an idiot. It's the only way I can describe it because then you just kind of sit there and be like, thing. Yes. I'll remember. I don't remember.
And then, when you're anxious, do you forget or make mistakes with your words?
All the time, even in English, man.
When I can't remember the words in a conversation, when I'm trying to communicate with someone, I get more anxious and frustrated, but the reason I can't remember the words is because I'm already anxious, and so because I can't remember them, my anxiety increases, and that just causes me to mess up more. And so by the end of a conversation, I could possibly become just a mess of anxiety and nerves and have no idea what I've been saying for like the past 5 minutes.